Hello, ladies and gentlemen. So, we are back with another incident having to do with South Africa. The U.S. President Donald Trump tweeted on land seizures, killing of farmers angers South Africa. And so, this has been a long situation, a long, debateful situation, and it is angering South African people. U.S. President Donald Trump has said that he asked Secretary of State Mike Pompeo to study South Africa, land and farm seizures, and killing of farmers, prompting Pretoria to accuse Mr. Trump of stoking racial divisions. And so Mr. Trump's comments have inflamed an already high octane debate over land in South Africa, a country that remains deeply racially divided and unequal nearly a quarter of a century after Nelson Mandela swept to power at the end of the apartheid. The rand currency dropped more than 1.5% against the US dollar in early trade on Thursday after Mr. Trump tweeted and circulated in South Africa. South Africa's foreign ministry will seek clarification of Mr. Trump's comments from the U.S. Embassy in Pretoria. President Cyril Ramaphosa's spokeswoman said, adding that Mr. Trump was misinformed. A tweet from the South Africa's official government account rejected the comment, saying the tweet seeks to divide the nation. I have from Mr. Donald J. Trump on a tweet on Twitter. I have asked Secretary of State Secretary Mike Pompeo to closely study the South Africa land and farm seizures and the expropriation and the large-scale killing of farmers. South African government is now seizing land from white farmers. And so then a response from South Africa totally rejects this narrow, which is from government CA, totally rejects this narrow perception which only seeks to divide our nation and reminds us of a colonial past. So the U.S. State Department was not immediately available for comment on Mr. Trump's tweets. So Mr. Ramaphosa announced on August 1st that the ruling African National Congress, which is ANC, plans to change the constitution to allow the expropriation of the land without compensation, as white people still own most of South Africa's land. Mr. Ramaphosa has said any land reform will be conducted without an impact on economic growth or food security. No land has been seized since the reform plans were announced. The ANC says. So Mr. Trump's tweet appeared to be a response to a Fox News report on Wednesday that focused on South Africa's land issue and the murders of the white farmers. Violent crime is a serious problem across South Africa, but the farm murders are currently at a 20-year low. Okay, so in March, the plight of South Africa's farmers caught an attention of Australian politician recently when then Home Affairs Minister Peter Dutton suggests white farmers were being persecuted and deserved special attention under Australia's humanitarian immigration program. Check white farmers base list. So an examination of the former Prime Minister Tony Abbott's claim that 400 white farmers were murdered in South Africa last year. So it says that comes from Tony Abbott's claim. So the defending Mr. Dutton's comments, former Prime Minister Tony Abbott told 2GB's Ray Hadley there is a very serious situation developing in South Africa. Something like 400 white farmers, which I was reading, had been brutally murdered over the past 12 months. However, Transvaal Agricultural Union, a group representing the interest of farmers, recorded 84 farm murders in 2017 calendar year. Of these, 59 victims were white. A further 15 people, including 8 white farmers, were killed on farms in the first 3 months of 2018. So, since the end of apartheid in 1994, ANC has followed the willing seller, willing buyer model, under which the government buys white owned farms for redistribution to black people. And so progress has been slow, and most South Africans believe something has to be done to accelerate change, providing it does not hurt the economy and stoke interests. So, reforming the land distribution and the ownership will be good for South Africa, said political analyst Nick Borain. And so, that there will be an instability and worries about property rights is inevitable, but we don't expect that the government will act in a way that radically destabilizes investor security. So Mr. Trump's tweet came days after it was announced that his wife Melania would have to travel or would travel to Africa in October for her first major solo international trip with the First Lady. So in January, South Africa protested to the U.S. Embassy of Pretoria about remarks that by Mr. Trump that some immigrants from South Africa and Haiti came from a shithole countries. So South African Foreign Ministry called the remarks, which sources said that Mr. Trump made during the meeting on immigration legislation, crude and offensive, and said Mr. Trump's subsequent denial was not categorical. And AfriForum, an organization that mostly represents white South Africans, who have described land expropriation as catastrophic, traveled to the U.S. or United States earlier this year to lobby the Senate and their other officials. So, what are your thoughts and feedback on this? This has been a long concern of South Africans. It's been a debate, and it's been ongoing fighting back and forth. From what I've heard, it's really gotten worse now since land is involved. So, like it said, that there has been a lot of racial division and racial tensions. Beyond racial tensions, there's been murders, and people of South Africa feel as though that they haven't been given the opportunity to own land in a land that is supposedly their land. Most of the percentage of the properties that are there are owned by white farmers. And so this is an ongoing debacle. What's your thoughts and feedback? The majority of white minority took our land. Enough is enough. So when the white South African farmer found his mom tortured in her home on a Mother's Day, he was sure it wasn't just a murder, it was political hate. And so there's been a lot of politics surrounding the racial divisions in South Africa and land seizures. And Trump has touted some of his comments is creating or stoking more racial division. What's your thought and feedback and comment on this? Thanks for listening.